On today's show, we go on the local scene with Elaine Sorrentino and Levine. Hear original poetry from Shea, Robert Pinsky, and Sheila Mullen Twyman. And get a short recap of Pembroke Town Meeting.
And if you're looking to learn or just have some fun, we'll also be talking about classes, programs, and upcoming things to do in Plymouth, Pembroke, Kingston, and Duxbury.
We're glad you're here. Let's get started. We invited poet Elaine Sorrentino into our studio to talk about her life, her work, and her poetry.
I've always been a writer. In high school, I wrote for the school newspaper. I have a journalism degree from Suffolk University. So writing has always been a component of my life. And mostly what I've been doing is writing other people's stories. I worked for newspapers. I worked for South Shore Conservatory. And I have a weekly column there that talks about different aspects of the people who are there. So at a certain point in my life, I decided it was time to write my own story. I would say my writing style is definitely personal. It has a lot of humor in it because that's my personality. And it's accessible. And when I published the book, I didn't think this would only be for women, but I thought that women would relate more. And it's interesting that is absolutely not the case. In fact, there's a piece in it called Conflicted, and the structure of it is the Girl Scout rules. And it talks about going into high school and trying to be unique, trying to do what others are doing. Do I need to leave the Girl Scout behind? And I had a man come up to me and said, I can completely relate to that. And I was thrilled. I was thrilled that it wasn't just something that women could relate to. I think everyone understands how difficult it is when you start high school and it's a little bit scary and am I gonna fit in? And I think maybe we all sort of think about what we want that experience to be like. Do we want to follow the rules, or do we want to be authentic? I'm so happy with my new collection of poems, and it's interesting that I thought about doing it about 5 years ago. It was the very first time I had ever done an open mic, and I was reading this piece about my parents in the kitchen making a French-Canadian dish called rapi pie. And there are like a bazillion different stages to it, and this was what happened in my kitchen. So I read it, and at the end of the reading, this woman came up to me and she said, that is exactly what, I'm French Canadian, and that's exactly what happened in my kitchen. And she said, can I buy your book? So of course, there was no book, so I took the poem out of my binder and I handed her the piece and just said, oh, thank you. And from that point on, I knew that I wanted to have a collection of poetry. The title of the book, Belly Dancing in a Brown Sweatsuit. It actually is something that really happened. I've had cancer twice, and after the first occurrence, I had gone through 9 months of treatment, and I wanted to do something fun when it was done. So I went up to Braintree High School, and I took a look at the list of adult education courses, and I really wanted something that would make me move, like tap dance, or I would have done line dancing, anything like that. But all they had was belly dancing, so belly dancing it was. And they just said to wear comfy clothing, and that brown sweatsuit was the comfiest thing I had, so there I was dancing in a brown sweatsuit. But I also, in addition to the fact that it is a poem in the book, I love the idea of people dancing through life in a brown sweatsuit. Aren't we all kind of feeling our way through life? We're not really sure. We're doing the best that we can. Is this the right thing to wear, So it sort of has a dual meaning. I would say poetry is important in general because it gives us an opportunity to put the way we're feeling into words. And I think it has always been there, but I think particularly in now where the times are so turbulent, it's really important for people to find a good way to express themselves, an artistic way to express themselves, as opposed to a violent way to express themselves. If somebody were to just be starting poetry today, I would give them some of the best advice that I got, because I consider myself a fairly new poet. I've probably only been writing maybe 10 years or so. And I would say the two best pieces of advice I've gotten were to show, don't tell, and to stay in the moment. So a lot of times, particularly those of us who are in the journalism field, we feel that we have to tell everything. And, you know, poetry is a snapshot in time, and you can just have this poem here, this is what happened. You don't have to say, this is what happened after. Just stay in that moment, stay in that snapshot moment. Poetry gives me a way to express myself, or express myself. If I'm angry, if I'm happy, if I just need to process something, just writing it out and getting it down to its succinctest point. And this, I actually love haiku, because that's what haiku does. It makes you look at one thing, and every word in a haiku is meaningful. So, in fact, I do Haiku Tuesday on Facebook every week. I invite people to play along, and I'll start with one haiku, and they will put their haiku down. And it doesn't really play off of mine. It's kind of whatever's on their mind that week. And that is what poetry does for me. It's what's on my mind. I'm able to get it out. If it's something that's making me upset, just leave it there. Leave it on the page and keep on going. This is one of my favorite pieces in this collection. This is about my grandfather. This is called Learning How to Eat Lobster with Grandpa. We bonded over dismantling defenseless boiled shellfish, sucking Land O'Lakes off our fingertips. Our 53-year gap closed the moment we fastened on plastic bibs with giant lobbies on the front, and he launched into crustacean instruction with his rich French-Canadian accent. Steakhouse onlookers absorbed his meticulous tutorial, imitating him as he twisted off each tiny leg, bid farewell to the thumb shell, dipped the delicacy into melted butter, and relished each luxurious bite. Blissful, even as bits of meat flew off my pick into his lap, unbridled laughter erupting from both sides of the table. Thank you.
Some research has shown that people with June birthdays tend to be as sunny as the season they were born in, and Pembroke Senior Services is hosting a birthday month luncheon centered around all the good-vibed, optimistic June babies. On Thursday, June 25th at 1 p.m., celebrity chef Rich Reddy will be cooking up a delicious plate of spaghetti and meatballs with cake for dessert. The luncheon is open to everyone, but if you were born in June, your meal is free. For non-birthday month guests, the cost is just $4. Please RSVP by Friday, June 20th at the front desk or by calling 781-294-8220.
Looking for a theatrical summer adventure? Cast your sails in the direction of the Spire Center for the Performing Arts for the Americana Theater Company's production of Peter and the Starcatcher. A winner of 5 Tony Awards, this high-flying prequel to Peter Pan is based on the best-selling books by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson. Heart, humor, and hijinks abound in this inventive play that chronicles the transformation of an orphan child into the beloved boy of Neverland who can fly and never grows up. Featuring some of the South Shore's finest talent, this swashbuckling, stardust-hued production promises to be a magical, laugh-out-loud, and unforgettable family-friendly experience. The show runs on select dates from July 5th through the 20th, with both evening and matinee performances. To learn more and get your tickets, visit americanatheater.org/tickets or call 508-591-0282.
In their 25 years, the Pilgrim Festival Chorus has performed more than 500 choral works. Join them as they launch into the next 25 with an epic choral celebration, Opus 25, a PFC journey, featuring the Pilgrim Festival singers on Saturday, June 21st and Sunday, June 22nd. This dazzling summer concert will feature timeless hits from the Great American Songbook, stunning contemporary choral works, and a show-stopping Les Miserables medley. This perfect blend of reflection and forward momentum is a fitting celebration to honor the powerful and inspiring music 100 talented and local voices have brought to the community choral music stage over the years. Saturday's show will be at 7:30 p.m. at the Church of the Pilgrimage in Plymouth, and Sunday is an earlier show at 4 p.m. at St. Bonaventure Parish in Plymouth. Tickets can be purchased at pilgrimfestivalcourse.org/tickets.
If you've watched the show Delicious and Nutritious, you know him as Chef Jerry Levine. But Jerry Levine has had a lifetime of myriad and fascinating careers. We went on the local scene to learn more.
My name is Jerry Levine, originally called Gerald. I came from a small town in Connecticut called Willimantic. At the age of 18, I was in the military, a U.S. Army, and I was sent to Vietnam as a combat medic. And then ultimately, after my 3-year tour, I went to college. I have a bachelor's degree in marine biology and an MBA, but also I'm a chef. I can cook. I was part of a group of people that developed the systems to raise salmon and trout that are right now being sold in the supermarkets. I've been the scientist on the Alvin submersible. I've worked at Woods Hole. Locally here with the Legal Seafood Corporation as their Director of Research and Development, where I developed products for them that went into their supermarkets and also into their restaurants. The things that I did with Legal Seafood was primarily work with the executive chefs such as Jasper White, who owned Summer Shack, the 4 Summer Shack restaurants. I worked with Julia Childs and Roger Berkowitz. While I was at Legal Seafood, I had an interesting experience. My boss, who was the owner, Roger Berkowitz, said to me, "I want you to buy me the boat that's in the movie The Perfect Storm." And there's a bidding war going on. I said, "Roger, how am I supposed to pay for this thing?" He says, "Here's my unlimited credit card. Right now, you got $250,000 as a budget. But if it's going to be more than that, I want to know about it." I said, "Fine, Roger, I'll make the phone call." And so I got on the phone and I said to them, I want to buy the boat, and what's it going for? And they told me. I said, "Here's what I want you to do, is that whatever is bid, you bid $1 more on the boat, and that'll be my bid, and keep bidding it up as long as other people are bidding." Well, eventually we bought the boat. We probably paid too much for it. The boat was owned by a movie company, and the boat was in Hamburg, Germany. So the key was, how do we get the boat back to the United States? Okay. I talked to the Legal Seafood lawyer and an accountant, and I made a contract with a surveyor, a marine surveyor, and the two of us got on an airplane, first class of course, and we headed for Hamburg. I hired a 3-man crew to bring it back, and the boat is getting ready to go back to the United States. Well, I had one more night in Hamburg. I found a really wonderful seafood restaurant, and I'm a foodie. And so I go into this seafood restaurant, and on the menu they had Dover sole, and it was one of my fondest seafood meals was that Dover sole on the island of Guernsey. I've done a fair amount of traveling through business connections, through Spain, Iceland, numerous places in the United States, been down to Chile, and now I am doing volunteer work as a retired individual that has to do with basically two things, and that is environmental issues as well as the television show that we're doing right now, Delicious and Nutritious. I work with a nutritionist by the name of Marsha Richards from the local hospital in Plymouth, designed to teach people simple, easy ways to make food that looks good, smells good, tastes good, but has a good nutritional profile. And the way we deal with this is that I develop the recipe and we shoot the recipe. Then the nutritionist, Marsha Richards, comes in and explains the nutritional background. And she basically talks about the need to keep sugar and salt and very low, because they're, from a medical point of view, they become a problem, such as heart issues, high blood pressure, strokes, etc. And that's what we do. I think what I'm doing is something that is positive for society. And to me, that's extremely important for me at this point in my life. I'd like to be remembered as a person that accomplished a number of things in my life, and most of them were positive things for society in general. And I think that this television show that we're doing right now is an indication of that.
Oh, does that smell good?
Otherworldly folk duo Hungry Town have left the green hills of their home state of Vermont and will be making a tour stop at the Plymouth Public Library on Friday, June 20th. Hungry Town members Rebecca Hall and Ken Anderson craft music that Goldmine magazine lauded a sonic brilliance. They exist on an ethereal level musically and produce a sound that is haunting and classic. The Vermont music-centered website, 7 Days, describes their sound as leaning heavily into that 70s UK folk sound popularized by progressive pastoral artists such as Vashti Bunyan, Pentacle, and Sandy Denny. Many of the songs sound like traditional ballads crafted long ago, but they came straight from Hall and Anderson, who moved through errors with ease. The Hungry Town performance will take place in the Phalo Meeting Room and is free and open to folk music lovers of all ages. To register, visit the library's website. Registration is required.
Local art historian Jill Sanford will be at Pembroke Senior Services to lead a thought-provoking discussion about some of Norman Rockwell's most beloved illustrations on Wednesday, June 25th at 1 p.m. Looking at some of Rockwell's most beloved illustrations, this talk will focus on the astonishing depth informing his work, his technique, and the inspirations that influenced his iconic style. Norman Rockwell Remembered is free to attend, but please register by June 18th. Call 781-294-8220 or stop by the front desk.
Next up is poet Graham Shea in a reading of his original work at America's Hometown Laureates Tiny Poetry event.
And we're going to add Graham Shea. Would you like to come? Yes. Thank you.
I hope not. Well, thank you for having me. Miriam, thank you. I have 3 in 1. So tanka, sidru, and haiku. So I will start with the tanka. And I guess in this presentation I've named each of my poems. I don't know if that's allowed.
It's your work.
Okay, so we'll start out with tanka. The title, Metal Inside Granite. As days grow cold. The docks, chains splitting, weakness below. Out in the middle of the channel, a barge full of granite. I jump. They drop the granite, and I am rescued. All right, so, Siju? The wind will stay still. The wind will pick up. Wind blows flowers. Wind blows tree trunks. Wind is on the water. Wind sunk us in. Wind is wind is wind is the wind. And then haiku. Nature's light is the sun bowl, room, light fills. Early evidence, spring blooms. In the window, I write poetry. Thank you.
They don't pay me enough for this.
The theories took the podium away.
Yes. Thank you, Graham.
Summer is here and the time is right for free concerts every Thursday night on the Plymouth waterfront at Pilgrim Memorial Park Amphitheater. The L. Knife & Sons concert series kicked off this month and will run through August 28th. Chill under the seaside night sky and enjoy live big band and orchestral music by the Moonlight Serenaders or the Legion Bud Band every week from 7 to 9 p.m. Check L. Knife & Sons Facebook page for the schedule. The park is located at 79 Water Street in Plymouth.
The Duxbury Free Library is hosting a neurodiverse craft night for adults on Wednesday, June 25th. Bring a project you are already working on or start a new one. Either way, you are invited to craft to the beat of your own drum. There will be some origami, coloring pages, and other craft supplies to use if you choose, as well as name badges for sharing your pronouns or letting your fellow crafters know you are nonverbal. This gathering is at 6 p.m., is an hour long, and will take place in the History Room located on the upper level of the library. All neurodivergent adults are welcome, no diagnosis needed.
June 25th will find musicians Andrew Lewis and Margaret Ferry at the Kingston Council on Aging for Songs and Stories from the Singer-Songwriters of 1960 through 1975. This musical performance will highlight artists like Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell, singer-songwriters whose lyrics especially captured the intensity and exhilaration of the era. Hosted by the Kingston Public Library, the show will start at 6 p.m. and is about 1 hour and 15 minutes long. Register through the library's website. The Kingston Council on Aging is located at 30 Evergreen Street.
Are you ready to have a jelly good time while also learning more about the relationship between plastic bags, jellyfish, and sea turtles? On Thursday, June 26th, the Crafted Coral Reef in the Children's Program Room will be awash with handmade plastic bag jellyfish made by you. This program runs from 3 to 3:30, is all ages, and requires registration, which you can do through the library's website.
Next, poet Sheila Mullen Twyman reads her original ekphrastic poem.
Hello, my name is Sheila Twyman, and the photograph is from the beach that I go to every day in the summertime, Peggotty Beach. Is the photographer here? No? Okay. As you can see from the photographs, the legs are long, very delicate. You used to walk under them or sit under them in the summertime for the shade. You don't dare walk under them anymore. They're very fragile. Survivors. The last of the old summer shacks stand precariously on their long, fragile legs. Pigeons nest in the rafters beneath. Squawking seagulls settle on the peaked roofs. These old ladies of the beach have witnessed red, orange, yellow, and pink skies on the horizon, and they've grown under ruthless hurricane winds and raging seas with 25-foot waves. They remember young sailors patrolling the beach during a long war to prevent enemy infiltration. They remember the spread of Irish moss on sand for days, drying from dark red to brown to white. Summers were always the best of times, with the raucous shouts and laughter of children, running around the spindly legs playing tag. They made the old ladies happy. Now the houses are cold with the silence of desertion. Tides are rising higher, and the ladies list to port. They know their end is near and do not want to leave. The sighing that you hear is not the sea.
South Shore Conservatory's Summer Music Festival invites woodwind, brass, string, and percussion students from elementary school to college age to take part in a vibrant summer musical experience centered on performance. Participants join top-tier wind bands, orchestras, chamber groups, and jazz ensembles, all while learning in a dynamic, collaborative, and musically immersive environment. On Friday, June 20th, the Duxbury Senior Center is partnering with the Conservatory to bring the stellar talent that has been fostered through the festival's program to the Senior Center for a chamber music concert. The concert starts at 10 a.m., and you can register to attend through the Senior Center's website.
Plymouth Patuxent Museum's What's Cooking program is a series of 10 cooking classes that will teach you how to cook the most popular of the historic dishes from their New England Harvest Feast. It is a true step back in time and a lot of fun. On Sunday, June 22nd, construct your own Grand Salad, a traditional 17th century dish we moderns call a salad. A Plymouth Patuxent food historian will accompany you through the kitchen gardens of the 17th century English village to gather edible flowers, herbs, and other comestible plants to create your own traditional meal. Bring your salad bowl from home or purchase one of the museum's reproduction ceramic bowls to take home your grand salad in true 1600 style. This 2-hour class starts at 10 a.m. Visit the museum's website to get tickets and reserve your spot.
Plymouth welcomed 3-term United States Poet Laureate Robert Pinsky to the Spire Center in a performance of Poem Jazz, featuring musicians Tim Ray, Stan Strickland, Catherine Bent, John Lockwood, and Ricardo Monson. This event was sponsored by America's Hometown Laureates, Inc., with funding in part by the Town of Plymouth Promotions Fund, Koenig Chiropractic, Cape Auto, and media partner, The Local Scene. Next up is a Poem Jazz presentation of his poem, Rhyme.
We'll do one more poem for you. And it'll be another kind of a demonstration of how these two arts, the art of poetry and the art of music, are sisters. And they're not identical, but they're closely related. And I'll read the poem once a cappella, and I'm happy to tell you this is a poem that we did not rehearse together. So we'll finish with the musicians, in a word, improvising what they do in relation to the poem. I feel on behalf of Konstantin Cavafy, I should tell you that that poem, The Old Man, Cavafy wrote it when he was quite a young man. It's a young man's poem. Cavafy was in his late 20s. And the old man, he probably did see an old man in a cafe. The old man was probably thinking about the waitress's ass, or his lottery ticket, or his grandchildren. Believe me. Cavafy had a civil service job as a foreigner, a Greek in Egypt, in Alexandria. He was gay, homosexual, very much closeted. And when he sees an old man in the way of art or poetry, he makes it his old man. He thinks about himself and all the experiences he dreads not having. And he makes what I think is a great poem out of it. because he has permeated the old man with his own anxieties and hopes. I just thought I'd do that. I am an English professor. I thought I'd give you a little information. So this will be our last poem. I will read it once, and then I will do it once with the musicians. And the title is Rhyme. I love quoting a very favorable review of the book that this poem appeared in. The reviewer said, "It is so much like Robert Pinsky to write a poem called Rhyme that does not rhyme." It certainly does too, only not in the way he may have been thinking of. It's not those two, how are you, what was there, I had some hair. It's more tongue, instrument, body, spirit, air, song, containment, ready, inherit, there, not important. Rhyme. Air, an instrument of the tongue. The tongue, an instrument of the body. The body, an instrument of spirit. The spirit, a being of the air. Each bird, the medium of its song. Each song, a world, a containment, like a hotel room, ready for us guests who inherit our compartment of time there. In the Joseph Cornell box, among ephemera as its element, the preserved bird, a study in spontaneous elegy, the parrot, art, mortal in its cornered sphere. Each room a stanza, rung in a laddered filament, clambered by all us unsteady chambered voices that share it. Each one reciting, I too was here. I too was here in a room, in a rhyme, in a song, in the box, in books. Each element an instrument, the body still straining to parrot the spirit, a being of air. Rhyme. Air, an instrument of the tongue. The tongue, an instrument of the body. The body, an instrument of the spirit. The spirit, a being of the air. bird the medium of its song. Each song a world, a containment, like a hotel room, ready for us guests who inherit our compartment of time there. In the Joseph Cornell box, among ephemera as its instrument, among ephemera as its instrument, the preserved bird, a study in spontaneous elegy, the parrot art, the parrot art mortal in its cornered sphere. Each room a stanza. Each room a stanza rung in a laddered filament. A laddered filament clambered by all us unsteady chambered voices that share it. Each one reciting, I too was here. I too was here. I too was here. In a room, a rhyme, a song, in the box, in books. Each element an instrument. The body still straining, to parrot its instrument. The spirit a being of air.
Robert Pinsky.
Tim Ray. Catherine Bent. John Lockwood. Ricardo Monson. Stan Strickland. Thank you so much.
Brooklyn in the house.
Dave Antoine is up next with Pembroke government on the local scene.
On a brisk Tuesday in May, Pembroke reunited for its annual town meeting. Moderator Steve Dodge opened the meeting, overseeing a quorum that reached over 300 residents. With 30 articles on the annual warrant and 3 articles on the special, Pembroke got off to an eventful start at Learning Lane. It began with a quirk of the state statute, as pointed out by the moderator, being that the town meeting clerk could not be the interim town clerk. This meant that the town would have to vote in a temporary clerk, one that was filled by Peg Struzik, the former clerk. Town manager Bill Chenard provided a brief but promising update on the public safety building, a heavily anticipated future project that will combine the town's fire and police departments under one roof. The town also voted to have a consent agenda, combining Articles 6, 7, 8, 26, and 27 into one. From discussing the beauty and necessity of the town winding clock on Article 2, to spurring nearly a half-hour debate on Article 22, looking at amending zoning bylaws as a business-friendly town, an article that didn't pass. Employing town meeting's lottery-style process of selecting articles, the town had 4 articles on the annual warrant that had drawn great interest. With 2 hours in, Article 13 was a vote to amend the zoning bylaw for medical marijuana overlay district, an article that had passed. Citizens petition articles were the hot topic of the night, and the last 3 of the warrant. Article 28 concerned discontinuing the fluoridation of the public water supply, with over 20 minutes of debate and discussion amongst the crowd, including the input of town council, explaining how fluoridation even led to the state's highest court as a possible ballot vote. Article 28 failed to pass and prompted a considerable exodus after the vote. Article 29 concerned the revocation of the plastic bag ban, another highly contested subject that received a no vote. Last was Article 30, on whether the town could raise, appropriate, and transfer available funds to increase departmental budgets for fiscal year 2026, an article that was ultimately postponed by the majority. This has been Pembroke Town Government on the local scene.
And that, my friends, wraps this episode of The Local Scene this week. Thank you for watching.
If you live or work in Plymouth, Pembroke, Kingston, or Duxbury and would like to have your own show or podcast, you should. Email community@thelocalscene.media to find out about our free production services and training for community members.
And if you have a story or event you'd like people to know about, email us at story@thelocalscene.media.
We thank our patrons Tiny and Sons, Quintal Brothers, and Squinty's Pizza for supporting our mission of community in action through media.
We'll be back next week with more of what's good and good to know in our area. Until then, we'll see you on the local scene. Hello, friend. If you enjoyed this video, please think about scanning the QR code and making a contribution to the local scene. Every dollar is appreciated, and your support helps keep community media alive and our resources free to the community. We'll see you on the local scene.